Well, hey there, my diecast fans. How are you doing? All right, got a new subject we're going to cover today. And this is a subject I'm surprised I've waited this long to cover because these are kind of one of my favorites as well. So we got what's called Box Panthers up here. Now, why am I saying Panthers when these are clearly LTDs and Country Squires? Well, Panther was the internal code name that Ford used for this platform, just like Fox was for the various Mustang, Fairmont, Granada, Mark VII, Thunderbird, Cougar, all those variants that the Fox chassis was built off of, okay? So, the Panther would have comprised the LTD, the Grand Marquis, briefly the Lincoln Mark VI between 1980 and 1983, and then also the Lincoln Town Car. And they built a 2 and a 4-door variant of the Town Car up through 81. After 81, starting with model year 82, they discontinued that 2-door. So those 2-door models from 80 and 81 in Lincoln of the Town Car, they're very rare and kind of sought after by collectors. All right, so these are all castings by Greenlight. And you'll notice most of them are station wagons because a lot of the sedan variants are done as law enforcement vehicles. But I do imagine I have 2 civilian versions I'm going to show you here, starting with the one that's on the turntable there. Now, a little history, because you know me, I love to give a history lesson. So, Ford was a full 2 years late behind GM on the downsizing game with their full-size car. The Lincolns held out until 1980. They kept their big bodies up through 79. So, the LTD and Grand Marquis, they both got downsized in 1979. As I said, a full 2 years after GM had done theirs. And during that 2-year span that GM was selling their excellent, downsized B bodies, which were flying out of the showroom. Ford was still selling their dreadnought-sized, Marquis and LTD as well, and touting their road-hugging weight. That was their selling point. Okay, but here's the reality. Okay, yes, those cars were nice. They were richly appointed, but they were also extremely heavy, extremely fuel-thirsty, and kind of just not in step with the times. This actually proved to be about the perfect size car for a full-size car. When GM went beyond this size, that's when they messed up. Those cars then were just too small. They didn't look right. They should have stuck with this and not, downsize as many cars as they did. Thankfully, they did keep the Caprice and the Cadillac Brougham in their true full-size, what became full-size for, several more years. So at least they had that much sense to do that. So, I have personal experience with a Box Panther. I once owned a 1982 LTD Crown Victoria, and it was a beautiful car. It was finished in medium red glow metallic, had the luxury decor interior, just a pleasure to drive. But I still, I never owned a Box Chevy, and I really wish I had. And now you can't even find them unless they're big money, and they're just, everything's gotten so rare and expensive now. So, yeah, I guess that ship has sailed. That ain't going to happen. But I did enjoy my Box Panther I had. I actually found it to be superior to, believe it or not, the O2 Panther I had, which I found deplorable and just terrible in every way. And I know people are going to find that shocking that I'm saying that, but I'm here to tell you, the box ones, they were built better. They were more nicely appointed. I also think that they handled better, even though they were using, fairly primitive suspension pieces. All right, so let's dive into it. So on the turntable, we have an inaugural 1979 LTD. This is a Landau model. You can tell it's a Landau because they had this little opera light that went on the outside here. Now, the Landau name was used for the top LTD only in 1979 and 1980. In 1981, they would introduce a new top-line LTD called the Crown Victoria. That's where the Crown Victoria name was resurrected from back in the 50s, okay? So this car was actually featured, this identical car was featured in an advertisement for the all-new downsized LTD. In fact, that's what this was using, Greenlight's little, ad series cars. Really nice effort by them. The color is very authentic. This is very close to the medium red that I had. The only difference is this is a non-metallic red. It's just a nice gloss red. Mine was about maybe a shade lighter and metallic. It was actually really pretty. Top was about the same, although mine had the kind of Landau style top. This is a full vinyl top here. And they had a very deep trunk, a lot of space in there. Now, in this year, you could get a 351, a 302 was standard, Later, that would change. They would make a I think it was 81. They started making get this, a 255 cubic inch V8, which was dreadful as the base engine, and then the optional engine was the 302. So this is a pretty nice effort by Greenlight here. They faithfully replicated everything from the divided grille in 79, 80, and I think also 81. They had little grills down here in the bumper after 80. When they went to model year 82, they discontinued that. There was a base LTD variant that they only built between, I think it was 79 and 80, and they're very rare today. You hardly ever see them. But it had 2 rectangular headlamps instead of 4. Different grille, header panel was just ever so slightly different. That was the base LTD. Sometimes they called that the S series, but yeah, they only made that 2 years. So it's after that they stopped doing that. And also, you may remember in 83, they introduced a Fox platform LTD. It was simply called LTD, and then the full-size one was called LTD Crown Victoria. Yeah, it's a really nice job they did. I like the pinstripes that they did on there. Good job with that. One mistake is, you'll notice it's got a third brake lamp. They did not have that in 79. They didn't get that until 86. Okay. All right, now we're going to look at another 1979. This one is a wagon version. As I have several of these. And, the old Country Squire translated very well into this body style. This is a nice metallic blue with a blue interior. I love how they did that. By the way, you'll notice there's only one car up here that's got a black interior, but it's okay. It complements the gray very well. So the wagons were pretty detailed. Got the nice little wood grain siding. Which, by the way, this wood grain, it was made of vinyl and it had adhesive. They put it on at the factory. And then these trim pieces were made of fiberglass with a wood tone applique. This wood siding was made by a company called Dynoc, and Ford made them millions of dollars by supplying them with Dynoc for these Country Squire and also the Marquis variants of the wagons, the Colony Park and all that good stuff. So the tailgate does lower, doesn't go completely flat, but it still lowers nonetheless. Shows you a very generous cargo area. And in all, it's just a really nicely done wagon. Bench seat in there. 79 still has the twin divided grille there. Little grills down here in the bumper. Very nice little wagon. Cool, right? You know me, I like wagons. I know a lot of you guys do too. Okay, now I'm going to show you a wagon from 1982. Like I said, I like to go in order of oldest to newest with the model years. This is actually still a non-metallic, but pretty close to the red that my Crown Victoria was. 82 Country Squire. Nice complemented red interior with this one. The Greenlight people did a boo-boo here. You'll notice that there's a little blob of silver paint from the trim that they were painting. Now you see here, it still has the divided grille, but there's no more grills down in the bumper. They eliminated that. That was a cost-cutting move. Nice wood grain. This one also has a tailgate that lowers, but that's, believe it or not, that's all the far it opens. There's something wrong with this one. That's kind of chintzy. This one's got a trailer hitch on it. Not all of them have that. Sometimes they do. It depends if they come with the trailer. I think this one actually came with this trailer here in the package, but I put it with that Mercury Colony Park wagon instead. I thought that it just fit better. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. This is their little chassis here. Pretty nice little wagon. They got a little funny with the white wall. See that? That's another goof that they did. The white wall is kind of oblong. All right, now I'll show you a 1983 Country Squire in a Box Panther. And there's a difference. And I'll show you that in just a moment here. Let that kind of spin for a minute. This one also has a trailer hitch, although I don't remember this one coming with a trailer. I think it just came like that so you could buy a trailer. Because Greenlight does sell trailers individually. They call them hitched homes. You can buy little camping trailers. So 83 was the first year for a couple things. One, they got rid of the variable Venturi carburetor that had been there since they used that in, I think it was 80, 81, and 82. In 79, they were using like a regular Holley 2-barrel. They went to the variable Venturi because it was a way to bridge the gap between fuel injection and a carburetor. And it was a pretty efficient and responsive carburetor, it was just extremely complicated. And when it went bad, it went really bad, and it was expensive to fix it. 83 was the first year they had the throttle body fuel injection, and also they altered the grille. They got rid of the little divider. It was now one piece. And this is a very, this is just like perfect representation of suburban middle America. A nice little beige wood paneled station wagon. Look at that, huh? I like the roof rack they put on these. This one also has your tailgate that drops down. This one is extremely stiff, but it will go down more than that other one did. Probably that other one would go down further if I forced it, but I don't want to force it. I like how they complemented the interior with the exterior. That was a really nice touch. They did a good job. And by the way, these wheel covers are very accurate representation of what they would have offered. Very nice. All right, now I'm going to show you a Mercury variant of a wagon. Let me take this off here for a minute. So Mercury called their wagon the Colony Park. And it was a very luxuriously appointed wagon, very nice. And see, I think this is actually in 1985. 86 was very similar. 86 was the final year of the truly Gothic, familiar Ford face. You know what I'm talking about, where you have the protruding fender corners, the prominent grille, and then the recessed headlights. So this was like the last gasp of that styling exercise here. So the Colony Park, as I said, was very luxuriously equipped. This one looks like it's got some kind of, I'm not sure if that's turbine wheels we're looking at or something else. It also could be wire spoke wheel covers they're trying to, because I know they came with those as well. Colony Park had a little different tail lamps than the LTD Crown Victoria wagon did in Country Squire. And this one has, of course, another lowering tailgate. It's also extremely stiff, won't go down very far at all. I think it has something to do with interference between the gate and the bumper. It's just something that, Greenlight doesn't really, I don't know why they can't work that out. This has a nice metallic finish. In fact, you know what? That is, that's probably about the color my Crown Victoria I had was. Pretty nice. This one's got actually really nice white walls they did here. And you got your little cornering light depicted right here. Pretty sharp. Yeah, I like when Greenlight was coming out with these. I thought they were kind of a nice little unique thing. And then it came with this little pop-up trailer. Well, actually, this pop-up trailer came with the 82 I showed you. But yeah, this is a little pop-up trailer that came with that. This removes right here, and it shows you a little interior inside. I thought there was another piece that went to this. I may have actually lost that because it was this very flimsy kind of like very thin plastic. And I think it got broken, so I ended up tossing it. And since when I display this anyways, I display it with the cap on anyhow. But still, that shows you that has a little interior there in the little pop-up trailer, which is kind of neat. All right, now I'm going to show you, we're going to head into model year, I think it's 1988 now. And that's going to be represented by another Colony Park wagon. Now, this is when you notice a dramatic change. So 86 was the year they switched to the sequential fuel injection with the tuned intake runner with 8 separate injectors. That was a much more efficient and responsive fuel injection system than the throttle body. And, people thought the throttle body was a step up from the variable Venturi carburetor. Well, the multi-port injection was a big step up from the throttle body. Okay. Now, what's interesting about the wagon variants is they kept the same rear end as in 86 and 87, where the bumper protruded on the sides, right? But the front end was the all-new kind of smoothed out front end where the bumper actually fit flush. And then you notice it kind of lost the Gothic effect. It was now the front end was kind of the smooth and flat. You no longer had the protruding fender corners, no longer had the protruding prominent grille and recessed headlights. It was all just kind of rounded, smoothed out, and flush fitting. Wow, that front end is a little loose. Look at that. Better be careful with it. Don't want to break it. But they made some changes to the, little minor changes to the interior. Added some nice appointments. This tailgate comes down. This one comes down a little better, as you can see. Very nice. And oh yeah, I think on the Colony Parks, I don't know if the last one had that, but they also were putting some wood grain trim up here on the side railing of the rack. So yeah, the 5-liter V8 with the sequential injection in these cars was actually very responsive. And of course, the HO version went into cars like the Mustang and also the Mark VII. And I believe the Thunderbird LX also got that engine as well. Very nice little wagon. I like that. And this one does have turbine spoke wheels, by the way. Like that. All right, now the last one I'll show you is from model year 1990. And the real big difference between an 89 and a 90 is actually found in the interior. 90 was the first year they came out with the new instrument panel and also the airbag steering wheel. 88 and 89 were still using the old 79 vintage instrument panel, but just with some minor tweaks here and there. But in 1990, they gave them an all-new instrument panel, and that instrument panel would carry over into the all-new rounded 1992 model. So you may remember the TV series Matlock with Andy Griffith, where he plays that lawyer in the South. He always drove a gray Crown Victoria just like this. In the earlier years, it was the more square one, front end, you know, like the 87 style. This is the style that debuted in 88. So in 90, they carried this over. They kept this until 91, actually. But this is a really pretty car. I like this one. This is a metallic gray. And this one, you'll notice, has the Landau top. It's got this stainless steel brush trim that goes across. This was padded. By the way, this is one of two vinyl roof styles you could get on a Crown Victoria and a Grand Marquis back in these years. There was another version that was a more formal top. It was an option. What they would do is, it was a very similar trick they used to do with the Chrysler Fifth Avenue. There was a fiberglass plug that went, it actually had a channel that attached into where this glass would mount, into this glass's channel. And the rear window would actually be installed in the fiberglass plug, and then they would put the vinyl over top of that. And then you'd end up with a Crown Victoria that had a slightly more formal roofline and a slightly smaller rear window. Gave it a little more, luxurious deluxe appearance to it. Not too many of them were built with that because it was kind of an expensive option. And also you can imagine with all that extra adhesive and, joints you got in that area was a potential leak path, which was unfortunate. The factory roof with this, standard glass was actually much better. Okay. You notice that on the, they rounded out the rear end a little bit. The tail lamp design is a little different. This was a very nice alteration that they made to this car. Kind of their effort to keep it more modern. And then eventually in 92, they switched to that kind of bubble style. And this would have been probably a Crown Victoria LX with leather seats and everything. This has single exhaust, but you could get a dual exhaust as a factory option. This looks like they clear coated it too. And I like how they depicted it with the turbine spoke wheels. That's the wheels that my Crown Victoria had. So there we go. I'm hoping that they'll make more versions of these sedans. I have plenty of wagons. I really don't have a desire to buy any more wagons. But I would like to have one or two more civilian-style sedans. It'd be nice to have like an 87 version of the LTD. And it'd be nice to have like maybe like an 88 or some version of one of these in a different color. I think that'd just be really cool. Because, like I said, Greenlight is just trying to get a lot of mileage out of their tooling. They invested a lot of money into it, and therefore they want to keep selling them, so they keep making multiple versions of these cars. That's how they do it. All right. So there you go. If you're a fan of Box Panthers, that video was definitely for you. I hope you enjoyed it. All right. So you guys, in the meantime, I want you to take care of each other, look out for each other, and God bless you all, and we'll talk to you in the next video.